Woodworking machinery can cause serious injury. Always read and understand the user manuals for all equipment used. Remember, dust, fumes, liquid, sharp or heavy moving objects can be deadly. Always wear appropriate personal protective equipment or PPE. Any omission of PPE during this presentation is to aid communication and is not an endorsement of the practice. The Nova Woodturners Guild, or NWG, its authors, presenters, and producers assume no responsibility or liability for accidents or damages resulting from the information conveyed within this presentation. Only you can keep yourself safe. Please do. If you're unsure, don't do it.
Hi, I'm Steve, and you might see the resemblance to Yogi since he's my older brother. I was asked a while back, a long time ago actually, to do a presentation for the Woodturners Guild on how you could apply lasers, laser engraving to your wood turning projects. So I did appear on the weekend this past meeting, and unfortunately through the magic of technology, my introduction didn't get recorded, but here it is. And as a treat, you get to be in my YouTube studio. I run a YouTube channel called Steve Makes Everything, where I focus a lot on lasers, CNCs, 3D printers, and make a lot of projects around those pieces of technology. And it just seemed like a natural fit to go and talk to some wood turners about an opportunity for you guys to do this as well. I also have my own website called slicepie.design, and it's mostly just a presence as opposed to I do a lot of active work there because most of my work is done by word of mouth. I don't advertise or anything. Now, as far as just me personally, I've been a maker for most of my life. I spent 30 odd years building high reliability software and hardware in big systems, and got tired of that one day about a year ago and decided I was just going to retire early and focus on my own stuff. And that's when I started my YouTube channel. Actually, about 3 years ago, I started that, but it really got focused a year ago. And my own website, I started doing a lot more work. So that's kind of a good context to start with. Now, for this presentation, it's not a lesson in how to use lasers. It's more of an information session where you can kind of get a feel for what lasers can do for you as a wood turner, and hopefully you'll see through some of the questions that got answered that there is some value here for you as a wood turner to actually own a laser. So with that, we can kind of get started. I will say one thing before we get going, and I think there's a bit more discussion about it later on. I will say up front, lasers are dangerous, so you have to be careful. Here's the proof. This was a CO2 laser hit about 4 days ago, so lesson learned. But think of it can do that to your arm. Think of what it can do to your eyes, so always be focused on safety. And with that, we can get going, and I want to thank you all in advance for participating and following up on this. So for most normal people, let's say, not industry, there's three basic types of lasers. There's CO2 lasers, which do this. There's diode lasers, which do this kind, and a fiber laser, which does those business cards. So these ones are particularly good for wood engraving and cutting. Terrible at doing acrylic, except black. You can do black. CO2 laser can do all kinds of acrylic. It can do most of what this one can do. This one can also engrave stainless steel, which a CO2 laser can't do. Fiber lasers are only engraving lasers. They do all metals, but they can't. I mentioned you can take a 40-watt fiber laser and you can cut a hole through a piece of stainless steel, but you put a piece of paper there and it won't touch it. So they all have their personalities. So this particular one is the kind that if you're doing woodworking, you probably don't want this one. Because you can get rotary tools for these, so you could do this kind of thing, but you can engrave all the way around if you wanted to. So that's the gist here, and we'll do some more demos. CO2 lasers, you can put rotaries on all of these things, but
you're not really going to do something with a CO2 laser on a rotary usually. Now, what can you do with them? Well, the nice thing about a diode laser is you can certainly do that, but you can also do this. Like a photo. I'll show that to the camera too. CO2 lasers don't do this. So this is like true graceful. So Audrey Hepburn. Most of you are old enough to remember Audrey Hepburn. I don't. It was just the first photo I saw. And fiber lasers, we can pass all these things around. So that was done with a fiber laser. And the business card, of course. CO2 lasers can do this. This started out as a piece of plywood. This is kind of cool. It's called a living hinge, and you can make, I've seen people make engraved book covers, so you can actually open the book. It can, it just takes a lot longer. The other thing you can do, and I actually probably use this exact laser, is you can do inlay. I have no experience doing inlay. I know there's probably people in this room that have 15 years of it, but this took me about 20 minutes to make. And it was, I mean, I could make those things fit time if I wanted. So that's written inlay in the yeah. So it's like it's the whole thing is maple veneer, and so I cut the outline of the bird and then laminated that piece on, and then cut all the individual pieces and glued them into the holes. Yeah, that stuff is just cool. Yeah, turn a piece of plywood into spaghetti. Yeah. With CO2 lasers, these name signs you're wearing, I make a lot of those kinds of things for electricians, for warning signs and stuff. I've got about 100 of them sitting on my workbench right now waiting for me to pick them up. Those things are really easy to make, and they're cheap. Now you guys are more interested in round things, and Ted likes it when I say, you guys don't know how to work on flat stuff. You gotta make round things. So, here's a plate. I did a laser engraving around the outside, put my logo on the back, although this is kind of a screwed up. This, by the way, I don't own a lathe.
I watched your video.
What else have they got in this box? We'll make a few things. But for you guys, if you're doing something like, and we can make one of these, but if I have a plate like this and I put a hole in the back, I can create my logo and I can stick it in. Or you're making furniture. I usually, those metal coins, I usually embed those in my stuff. This one is ash. Important safety tip, don't try and laser engrave ash. I found out the hard way. It doesn't come out very well. Because there's too much weird grain in it. So yeah, that's all CNC. That took me, I don't know, you guys can tell me, how long would it take to do that on a lathe?
Oh, about 10 minutes.
8 minutes? Okay.
I think you
Yogi just passed.
took about half an hour to make it.
It's about,
An hour?
yeah,
Yogi?
it's about 25, 30 minutes aside.
Oh, okay.
Oh, sorry, Bob.
But you don't really have to sand a whole lot when you're done.
I watched Richard Graffin make a bowl the other day, and he said, I'm going to do it at my production speed. Well, he said, as much as I can do. He's 80. And he
But
made
still
a very
faster
nice,
than CNC.
very nice bowl. It's took it 32 minutes.
Wow. Yeah. Same with like these chess pieces I showed you, the chess piece there. That'll take like an hour on a CNC. Now the difference is I can push the button and I can walk away. But make sure that nothing's going to come flying back. I'm not saying CNC is better, but it's another tool. The other obvious thing to make is tools. So This, at the coercion of Ted, is a chuck guide, the go, no go, of no particular measurement, apparently. As we discovered, it's not the exact size.
It's the first generation.
Yeah. But the thing is, if you want to make 10 of these 10 different sizes, that's like a 20-minute job. Because
Yes.
it's all done on like, CAD.
Well, you see the advertising. Well, I'm saying, well, you can make this, okay, but you can't actually cut through the plywood.
Okay.
Well, I know, but I'm saying that's what the advertising was.
Depends on like a laser ad.
So would that be like the strength of the laser?
Yeah, and the type, but the strength. These ones I made on the CO2 because dial lasers don't work very well. In my shop, I tend to go through a lot of these, so I find when I break one, I take the next one out of the nearest piece of scrap. So we'll do some live demos, but that's kind of the things you can get to. So for you guys, primarily, it's make tools and maybe buttons, and you can do live engraving on a bowl. You saw the logos on the back of things like this. You stick it on. Now the beauty of this laser is it's got a camera built in. So this salt shaker we just did. And I don't have a mouse here, so it's a little jerky, but we can put this up on that screen if you want. So I'm not sure why it's pink or purple there, but I can take a snapshot of the thing that I'm engraving here, which is, I mean, it's hyper accurate. Like this thing is accurate to like a 10th of a millimeter. So that's why I put the blue tape on there, and just for comfort, you can see how close I am to the blue tape. And if you look here, it's not quite the blue tape. And that's important for things like bowls, right? Like that cherry bowl with the diamonds around it, because you don't want it to be all screwed up. This is kind of unique to this. Most of them you can get cameras for, but they're not nearly the same. What else do you want to know? Other than we can do some live demos. Yes. So this particular one, so diode lasers tend to be a little smaller. So this one is, I don't know, about 14 inches by 10 or 11 or something. I have bigger diode lasers. I have one that's a meter long and 400 millimeters wide. My CO2 laser is 2 feet by 3 feet. Fiber lasers tend to be like this big. It's moving. So this thing has all kinds of mechanics. Fiber laser uses things called galvos, which are just little steering gadgets, and they have a mirror on them, so you steer the beam around. That's why you can only go that way. But typically these come in, I'd say the sizes you're going to use if you're a woodturner. Like this one's big enough, honestly, unless you're or something. And power is probably the next question. 2 years ago, a reasonable engraving laser was about 5 watts. Now they're 70 in that span of time. But you don't always want the most power. So that photograph, that one's done with a finer beam because as diode lasers get more powerful, they get bigger. The beam slot gets bigger. So if you have a 20 watt, it's probably 0.1 millimeter square, or 0.1 by 0.15 or something. They tend to get it too. This one's about 0.08 by 0.1. I think we said the dimensions of it here. But a 5 watt laser would be 0.06 by 0.06 millimeters. So tiny, which means really fine detail. So it's not always about power. Power is good for cutting. And you'll see if you looked at any of the diode laser ads over the last couple of years, it was, oh, this laser can cut 2x4s. But great, who cares? Cable saw will do it a lot faster. Right? But when you want to cut a round hole through a piece of 2x4, or not even a round hole, because you'll say a drill, but if I want to do a star, I want to put a star on a piece of 2x4, I can do that. The downside is it's basically burning its way through there. So we're going to have this all everywhere. Right? And that's not good. So you have to use the right tool for the job, as always. But they do get big enough these days to literally cut a 2x4. That's what you want to do. But I wouldn't. Anything else before we kind of hop to some demos?
Is there any advice you can give us going to, say, Amazon? Who can you believe when they say there's a certain dimension or a certain power or whatever? Is there a rule of thumb you use to sort of say that's crap? And what they claim?
If I was buying a laser today, a diode laser, I wouldn't buy less than 20 watt. And a lot of the, again, it depends what you want to do, right? The most common question people ask me personally in live streams, comments, email is, what laser do I buy? And my inevitable question back to them is, what do you want to do? Right? If you say you want to make, acrylic something, well, the answer is not a diode. You don't buy that. So you have to understand what your use case is. Now, for you guys, it's pretty easy. It's wood most of the time. So you probably, a diode laser is a good, cheap way to start. But if you look at the specs on like an Amazon laser, they're not going to lie on the dimensions for sure. The power, you have to be careful. They used to quote, like you'd see diode lasers that were, and I know this got you at one point. You'll see they'll advertise diode lasers, 100-watt diode laser, and you go, no, that's not possible. What they used to spec to get that number to look big was the input power, the incoming plug. And people finally said, you guys are a bunch of idiots, stop doing that. So now they quote the input optical power, which on this laser is about 22 watts. But okay. That doesn't mean you can just randomly buy anything on Amazon, because there's some really crappy lasers out there. And I have turned down so many of these when people come and say, I got this wonderful laser, can you review it? No, it's a piece of junk. So I'll say anything you see reviewed on my channel is something I would actually buy, depending on the budget. Some of them, like you can buy a 5-watt laser that's really good, like a Tour 5-watt laser, and it'll be a couple $100. Actually, I've seen them below 200 and 150. Which, when you think about what you're getting, it's like, how do you make this thing for this 120 and ship it to me in a box from China? But in general, like I said, anything that's reviewed on my channel is something I would conceivably use. But X-Tool, as Ted is discovering the charm of X-Tool lately, these guys are actually really good for starter lasers. And this one is super easy to use, and that's a big deal for a lot of people. You'll hear people tell you use Lightburn. Lightburn has a learning curve like this for a long time, and then you go, okay, now cool, I can do everything. Super powerful, but hard to learn. Like, it just does so much. This one will do a lot of what Lightburn will do, but it's gentle, we'll say. It's designed for somebody who's never seen a laser before. And I can show you when we do the other pepper shaper there, how easy that is. Like, it's got a camera that's accurate, which is what most don't have. You don't have to worry about focus because it's autofocus. Whereas, like, something you see on Amazon will most likely have either a pin or a block or something that gets you to focus. So you put it underneath the laser module and you lower it down and go, okay, I'm in focus. It works. But it's, as a new person using a laser, it's something you have to think about and you're going to forget. And I had a guy say to me, I got this laser you recommended and it's not cutting very well. So, well, show me a sample. And I looked at it and the beam, if you cut a straight line, it's about this wide. And I said, are you focused? Focus? Yeah, so you don't have to worry about that stuff. So, like, if you said, you said, I got a fistful of money, I'm going to buy a laser, and I've never seen one before, I would buy this one. But if you're running an engraving business where you're doing it a lot, I would buy like an X2 or X1 or something. So depends what you want to do and how often basically you want to use it. Like if it's a occasional thing, even this one's probably overkill for, I'm doing one laser job a week. But as far as getting going, this is right now. But there's a big trend now. Like lasers, and you still see a lot of them, were open frames. Basically a square frame, and you don't have a probe, right? You just have a regular. Yeah. So it's an open frame. Those things are insanely dangerous, right? like never ever turn the thing on without goggles. That's why there's a big trend towards these, right? Where it's enclosed. So you'll hear people talk about class 1, 2, 3, 4 lasers. Class 4 lasers are those open frame ones, which means it could kill you, right? It certainly can blind you. This is a class 1 laser, which means you can stand beside it. You don't need to wear glasses as long as the lid's closed, and honestly, if you open it, it'll stop. So from a safety perspective, you want class 1 if you can get it, but you pay for it. It's going to cost you. This laser is, and I can only quote US prices because that's what I work in most of the time. This laser runs anywhere from $700 to $1,400, depending on the sale that they have going on and what you want. They now have a 40 watt laser. Send. So if you can get an enclosed laser, that's what you want. If you get an open frame one, you can build an enclosure. Ben built one, Richard built one. And you can put a little window on it. You get a piece of acrylic this color or red, and you can put a little window in there and it'll be fine. But
You put a camera in it.
right, that's how I would do it. Yeah, avoid the whole thing. As far as safety, most of them have all the same kind of safety features, fire detection, because you can actually light things on fire, not surprisingly. Lots of interlocks, so you can't open this, it won't start, or if it's running, it will stop. What else is there? Oh, if it's an open frame one and I come by and just lift the corner of it, it'll stop, so it has tilt detection. What else is in there? Just like they've tried, right? They've tried to make them safe, but at the end of the day, you're taking basically a light stick and you're like it's a knife in a sense, right? It's this, and it's floating around your room. Everything that it reflects off of is basically scattering bleed over everywhere.
One would say this, but I don't think most people know what this is.
Oh, this.
No, your arm.
Oh, sorry. This here. This is what a CO2 laser does to you in about a second. At least my CO2 laser. So, you gotta take a picture of it.
Gotta get the gore in.
The only nice thing about burning your arm with a laser is it doesn't bleed because it cauterizes it at the same time. I guess you could have stitched it up though.
Lasers are unsafe.
Yeah, well, right? It's like you have to be careful. I worked early in my career. I worked in industrial lasers, and part of our requirement was we got our eyes tested at least once a year. And just out of the blue, one day, the little video game thing you play where you're looking for the lights, and I had a big hole in the back where there was nothing. And he said, "That's interesting." Took a hit. Just a scattered beam from somewhere. And I have left up. Put it back there. Took it. Second. So you gotta be careful. And I'm not saying that to terrify you, but these are dangerous, right? And this is one of the pushes to enclosed lasers because they're safer. And I think it was only a matter of time before either the Americans or the Europeans were going to say to these guys, "You can't sell these lasers." And so that's why most of the new generation, the Creality Falcon 2 Pro is one of the box. This one's enclosed. Recreate. What else? So the Rolly is enclosed. Like they're starting to come out, and I figure it's probably another year before that's the only thing people want. Just for this. The box over on the side here, which you probably can't see on camera, but that's just a fume extractor. Normally I would vent outside directly. This is for the benefit of here, just to make sure you don't gas everybody, because lasers do make a lot of smoke, mostly when you're cutting them. Well, all the pieces are over there. So anything you cut tends to make a lot of smoke. Engraving, not so bad. Although this one did. But that's the other thing you have to worry about. Yeah, this thing made a whole lot of smoke. This thing. Just because it's just like one constant cut. This took about probably, I don't know, 10 minutes to make maybe, but there's a lot of, you can see the brown there, it's all smoke. So anyway, that's the safety portion of the program, I guess. Just, I don't know, well, yours is enclosed now, right? You just never know, like you can, as long as you're wearing glasses, it's fine, but if you just have it open in your shop and somebody wanders through unexpected, they're at risk.
And these are appearing in the home
Yeah.
people are having them inside their home, and there's kids or pets, another big thing.
Yeah.
Pets don't know the laser dangerous, and they look at them.
So what's that? Right, Lee?
But they'll also say, I can't eat it, so who cares?
Yeah, but by then it's too late.
And
It's like literally, if you were staring at the beam, it would be something that should be. But even the reflections, it's the inverse of the square root of the distance from a danger perspective. So if you're 1 foot away versus 10 feet away, you could still do damage. It would take longer to do less severe. But yeah, it's not so much good. Anything else? What else can I tell you?
You started with Bill's salt
Yeah.
and pepper shakers there, so, and I could understand, like, doing the one lever, it's okay, but there's the rotary tables.
Yes.
Could you address those? Like,
Yeah.
can you buy one and it's usable on virtually every manufacturer's one? Yeah, I can tell what the answer is. Yeah.
So it used to be true. It's mostly true still. But when you get into like special, some laser companies will say like We Create or X Tool, they've decided that they want you to use their rotary tool. So you'll see an aircraft plug in the back there, if you look in there. That's what their rotary plugs into, but most of them use just a plug that plugs into the same socket as a stepper motor inside the laser. That doesn't mean you couldn't use a different rotary, but you'd end up having to wire it yourself. As far as rotaries go, there's two different kinds. There's a chuck, like you guys all use chucks, right? Where you can just screw it down. Now, it doesn't turn at 100 or 1,000 RPM. It turns as it needs to, and it can go both directions. And there's also rollers. So for this particular thing, if you were trying to hold this in a chuck, you've got a lot of mass hanging out here, so it wouldn't work. But you can put it on a roller. And it's really just two things that look like pencils that it sits on, with rubber on them. And because this is kind of a weird shape, you can actually adjust the height of those rollers to make it level, so that the surface you're engraving on is level. So yeah, they're out there. Ooh, a nice salt shaker. But what you'll find, and I don't know, you had a rotary. I thought rotaries are the coolest thing ever, and you do a couple of things on a rotary, you go, who cares, right? Now it's different for you guys because you're probably taking a bowl or something and you want to put something on the outside of it, which leads me to another thing. Then you're going to want, like you probably have more use for a rotary, certainly than I do. But I've engraved things like those Yeti cups and those kinds of things. But And I know there are people who make a living just doing rotary engraving, but it's not moving. So I'm the wrong guy to ask. I don't know how much you use your rotary, probably not a lot. Yeah. You do your coffee cup with some snarky saying on it, and then you have it, right? But there are people who do it for a living, but it's a small percentage.
One of our members, his business is making pens.
Yep.
And a lot of this makes some of his business from corporate gigs. So some corporation wants to give out, 100 pens to their sales agents or whatever. So I could see him sort of making use of
It's just putting like their company name along the end of it. So you wouldn't actually need a rotary for that because that's this one, right? So if you come to my shop, you'll probably pick up a pencil, those orange pencils, and I'll have my name on the side of it. And that you can do with pretty much any laser.
So it's the circumference, the largeness of it that causes some of the problems. At some point you'd have to go to a roller to get it.
Yeah, so if you wanted to take, and put your logo on this and go this far, then you would want to have a rotary. Like if with a diode laser, I mentioned before I started here that they have infinite focus, which means there's a really long range where it's useful. So, if it's that long, it would be good here if you focus down there, and it would be good there and there. But it wouldn't be good over here, obviously, because it's out of use. So there are times when you want a rotary. And again, probably if you're making a bowl, you're going to want to put a pattern around the outside of it or something, right? Or around the inside.
If it's too steep, then all the perspective of the lettering is going to be different.
Well, two things. It'll distort.
Yeah.
And because it's out of focus, you're losing power. So it'll also get lighter at the same time. This thing, if you actually measured it, you really find that the outsides are probably just immeasurably thinner than the center just because it's round. But yeah, you don't want to do that too often. Like we got away with it here. If we did put salt and pepper on this, we would have had to have a rotary because we would probably most of the way around. So there are uses for it, but most people are probably not going to use a rotary a whole lot. You guys are maybe the exception because you do lots of things that are round by nature. The other thing I was going to mention is if you have a bowl this big, how do you do it on this? Well, this one actually you can remove the bottom. So, and you can put this thing up on blocks and put your rotary down on the, well, actually this one you couldn't put the rotary down, but a lot of them, the rotary is just freestanding. So you can drop that down on the table and put your laser up here and you can do a big bowl. Again, if that's what you want to do, make sure you buy the right laser. This one, the rotary actually mounts on the side, inside here, so you wouldn't be able to do that. But there are lasers for sure that you can do that. Do you have a rotary for your Falcon?
Just got one.
Yeah, I wasn't even sure where to plug one in.
Well, you've got to unplug the Y-axis and plug it into that step.
Yeah.
So that's what's stuck in. I don't like it. And you're going to put a switch.
Yeah, a lot of lasers have the switch built in now, but in this case you have to unplug one of the. So these things all have 3 stepper motors: X, Y, and Z. Well, most of them don't even have a Z; they just have X and Y. And when you run a rotary, quite often you're unplugging the Y because you don't need to go back and forth because the material's here. You only need the X, right? So they unplug the Y and then use that. This one doesn't. This one uses a thing called the A-axis, which is the axial axis, I guess. And you can still use X and Y, but when it's in that mode, basically you get the Y for positioning, but after that it's mostly disabled when you're starting the job. So,
Well, someone understands it, something should have told you. There's 2 types of rotary. One is going to go in this direction. The other is going to go in that direction.
yeah, the only difference is where the chuck is pointed, right? So some chucks you can actually rotate them. So you could turn it straight up and you could rotate this way. But you don't actually have to do that on a laser because the laser can rotate.
Oh,
by itself.
laser does it.
Yeah, yeah. So like that bowl with the diamonds, right? I just plunked it down, and we'll do another one, and it just engraved around the outside. Now it actually didn't do what you would think logically. It didn't go around the outside. It went side up to the other end. But so when you're engraving, there's a couple of modes. There's fill mode, which is this, and there's outline mode, which we just draw the outline of the S. The outline of the S, it will do what you expect it to do. The fill, it takes a more optimal path for the laser, not optimal for you, and it will just go side to side until it fills it. Unless you're using offset fill. But you don't have to worry about the vertical line of the laser. But they do make rotaries that you can turn on their nose if you really want to do that.
Well, that's what I was thinking of. I was not thinking of. You can also manipulate the laser head.
Yeah, that's the beauty of the thing, Dave. The ones, incidentally, that you can turn either horizontally or vertically, you can go any angle, right? So if you have some, I don't know, you're trying to engrave on a cone, you could turn it on an angle to get that engraving surface level, and you can engrave. So it's quite flexible, but almost never would you engrave on a rotary. You can't even think of a use case where you do that.
You maybe could address this when you start doing it, but is there a way of, like I'm concerned if you got a bowl, you want to put it in, and you want to do something in the center of the foot. You have to know exactly where that foot is in order to get it.
We'll show you that.
That's going to be good.
Yep.
Okay, that's good. I'll shut up then.
Well, you don't have to, but
No.
But like I did it here, right? So this is a bad example, but I engraved it in the center. Right. Like you measure this with a micrometer, and it's going to be or during the caliper, it'll be 3 kilograms exactly. This particular laser is unique in that because you saw this photo, right? Right. So that allows me very precise positioning. Now, the way to do it, if you just want to put something small in the center, say this bolt, if you're just sizing on that with an eye bolt, right? So the trick is to create a circle, and we can do it. Create a circle the size of your bowl, and the thing you want to engrave in the center, to center those things together, and then line it up here, and then don't engrave that thing on the outside. So that's how you position that.
So am I understanding right? There's a point at which you get an output from the laser that allows you to aim it, but it's not doing any cutting? Is that, am I overinterpreting what you just said?
Sort of. So anything, and it's easier if we show it, but anything you put on a canvas. So this tool is basically a drawing tool, right? So I can put a circle and a square and letters as I did here. And I can say, okay, now engrave that. Or I can say, don't engrave this square, but engrave everything else. So you can individually turn off. And that would be the case here, where you have an outline, but you're not really engraving it, you're just using it for a line. And I think I actually have an example where it does that. Anyway, I guess we can do some demos. Yeah, we'll start with the extra pepper shake here, just because it's here. So all I'm going to do is drop it in. Just get up and wander around if you want, but can we go back up there? This is the salt shaker one. So it takes a picture, and I can take a new picture. All right, so there's a key there. Now I can say, what do I want to do with it? This is an engrave, so it's just an outline. Or I can say a filled engrave, and now you can see the fault. So I can always see what I'm engraving with. And I did actually pick materials, so I'll have to go back and pick that. We used to share these before. We didn't set one up for makeup. This. And now I can say, how do I want it to be done? Now, the good thing about the Retreat Vision is they provide a whole bunch of samples for you. So if you have a piece of cherry and you have 100% power and 100% or 100 millimeters a second, it's going to look like this thing in the upper right corner. Or if you have about 10 millimeters a second, it's going to be really cool. I believe we picked this one. How'd you remember? So I just clicked on it, and what it did over on the side here, it preset, I select this peak again. So it's preset those things, 78. But I didn't have to do anything. And that's kind of cool. After this, it's just a case of saying, yeah, we're good with this, so let's start. Oh, sorry. Focus first. And what it's doing is it will see this whole thing move in. This thing. And it moves, okay. Get yourself here. Now I can say start. Oh, it is too bad. See it? So that's what it'll look like when it's done. And I could say, yeah, I'm okay with that. Okay with that, right? And I can say fan. And now it's sent it over to the laser rather. And all I have to do is push that button and it starts. You shoot that? So that was the fiber laser job. Now that's it took quite a while because my fiber laser isn't very powerful. It's only a 20 watt. With a 60 watt, you go down. We make things that look like quarters or pennies or something. We can go be. Right. Done. We have some more junior sampling to do. But little 320 and then some 600. I don't know what to send us now to 320. All right.
Yeah, the price for
What's that?
the price for
Oh, because it's got that after effect.
Well, you could, last that, bring the next one.
He's probably thinking that would go.
Look your plan.
Yeah, well, that's typically what I do. Most this stuff is, these things are very sandy. Surprised you can't see a lot of tools on them, but. So I'll show you how I did the, actually, yeah, we'll do this. So the bowl is a little bit different because, we gotta go back to my screen here again. I'm making it work. I really should have brought a video switch. I hadn't.
Well, we're slowly building up the things we need to do things like that. So I can see a switcher in our future.
Yeah, they make really cheap AB switches. Like it's just one button.
Yeah.
And they're like $20 on Amazon. See if that one there.
Yeah, no, I was just giving it that.
So, well, let's take this thing. So if I wanted to put this P right in the center of the plate, again, I'm going to draw a circle, and it'll actually make it a circle here in a second. So in this case, we'll get it roughly the diameter of the plate. Doesn't have to be perfect. Because as you can see, the plate's not perfectly round, but it's good enough. All right, close enough. Now, if I want this P to be right in the center, I'll just select both of them. And I will say a line horizontally and vertically. And now it's in the center. So I can say on the line, there's this ignore engraving, so I won't engrave the line. I'll just engrave the P. Yeah, it is a challenge, I believe.
As long as it don't come in there.
But
So how does it focus on the curved surface?
well, so what I'm worried about is because the laser's moving back and forth when it's that far from the material, I gotta make sure I'm not gonna hit the edges of the bowl when I'm engraving. So what I'll do is a dry run where I have no power. I've already hit the edge of the bowl. Okay, answered my question. So we won't do that. I mentioned X tool. And X tool S1 has a thing called contoured focus. So what I can do is say focus here, here, and here. And then if I'm doing something, it's smart enough to know that there's a curve. It's a very sweet feature. This doesn't have it, unfortunately. So I can't engrave in the center. But I'll find something else to put there. Here, we'll use this one. Immediately set one up for this. Right, we'll use this one.
We just wanted to put. I'm thinking something like that.
No, I'll do it on the bowl. So there's my pattern I'm going to use. I'm just going to engrave it just because it's faster. And we have cherry. Select it. Yes.
You want to go a little less deep than 8 millimeters?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Because 8 millimeters, I'll chop right through. Yeah. So yeah, I'm just going to dot the power down here quite a bit.
With a no. We've got a couple of different cherries there.
Well, up the speed. Yeah, it's fine. Well, let's just do that. There we go. We'll go a little faster. That should do it. Now I've got the outside layer turned off. So that's just centering. So this will put it about, I don't know, couple centimeters in, or a centimeter in from the outside. Then I can just hit start. Now this one will go quite a bit faster because I'm only doing that one.
34 seconds.
Yeah, it'll be quick. Stop. Technical issue. I forgot to focus. Bottom of the bowl here, which is. Yeah, so I can just put the plate randomly anywhere. And that white thing is the thing I just put in the middle there. And then I can just center the orange around the outside. Now it should be a little better. These are maybe a boat anchor at some point in your future. He forced me to take a firmware update on it, which made a whole bunch of things not work because it's a really old motherboard in it, or a controller in it. So,
Read the branches in it and read them.
well, so a lot of things I review are under NDA, like the nut shipping it. Yeah. This was one when it first came out. All right, we're good now. Still 34 seconds. So if you look at this one now, if you're interested, it's now drawing individual lines.
So it's not sweeping back and forth, it's
Right.
actually,
Yeah,
okay.
it's actually drawing the lines. So it's like you would do with a pencil.
Right.
It ended up a little light. Hang on, let's cancel that and darken it up a bit. I just took a random guess here. Yeah. Yeah, that's good. More power. Yeah.
More power.
Cool time.
Another cup of coffee.
Now you gotta take a peek at this.
See what it's gonna take now.
4 hours and 30.
41 seconds. I can tell by the smoke coming out, it's already dry.
Did you increase the panel or slow down the speed?
I did both beds, man, so. Yeah, and that's there's two things on the slide, right? Like you can make it go really fast and you'll get light. Or you can slow it down and lower the power and get the same exact effect. And that's another question people always ask. What are the settings for this? It's like, okay, what laser, what power, what material?
What can you do for your very first thing?
So that selection thing I showed you, you can actually do those yourself. So you can say, I got this new material, I don't know what it is, let me run a power test of it. And I can do that, I can make that line or whatever the squares that were there for it and give me piece of material. And then I can have, in here you can actually save it.
So I mean, if you're in a case of somebody like me,
Yeah.
and, you only really learn something after you buy your first one.
Yep.
So how do you decide on your first one?
Oh, to buy the first laser? Yeah. So, go to channels, basically, is one place. But figure out what you're going to do most of the time. So I'm going to engrave the edges of both. So that's my thing. I might do some other things, but I'm not going to do metal. I'm not going to do acrylic. That will say, okay, you can get away with a diode. And then it's a piece of, am I mostly engraving or mostly cutting? And if you're mostly cutting, now you want power. If you're engraving, you don't care. 5 watts is enough. How would you do this?
Smoke's coming out.
Yeah, we can do
Looking better.
Doing circuits.
those fume extractors are awesome.
Yeah, it's doing an efficient job.
It's the best one I've ever seen.
Sprinkler it off, yeah.
No, it's not likely to.
Yeah, I was just considering this.
The fact that it's smokers. Do you want your shots? It was. Good little thing for getting set up, but.
We'll better than like 42.
Better than you can draw with a pencil?
Little better than I can do with a pencil.
Yeah. Yeah. So this one's nice because all those little bits and pieces you cut out will end up down the bottom. Oh, and slide this thing out and throw them home.
Okay, let's have a look at that thing.
It'll come back. So and these things here, we can cut some out, I guess, but this is essentially the same. The engraving is the same kind of process. And here we select that outer line on the pipe that I disabled. We would select it here and say I'm going to cut this circle out. And yeah, like if you're using this for an insert on something, this thing's deadly accurate. Yeah. So this hole in the back of the plate was 41 millimeters, and I thought, there's curve. So the thing to understand about lasers is they have curve just like a solid granite plate. I'm going to cut the hole. And on something that has a beam size of about 0.1 by, it's roughly half. It's the curve. So I expanded this from 41 to about 41.2, and this isn't the press one. And if I put this in, this is actually a press bit. Well, you get really angry. This is my new logo, by the way. You're the first people to see it for my channel. This was, so I have a video coming up. For most of my design, I use Kill, which is an online graphics design tool. And it has an AI ability to do AI images. So this, I called it, I wanted to make an image, a logo for my channel, and I gave it to me my channel, and this is what it did. It actually generated something a little more complicated from what we saw. So, it's AI generated.
I can see that as being the solution to those really large pieces that you couldn't fit inside. You could do a lot of these and have.
Yeah. Now, this is one place where open frame is good, right? Because if you want to put something in there, drop it on there and break it. You see, I want a bowl. Well, that's what I did with it. There's a video, go watch it. The nicest thing about doing it on CNC is if I want a whole set of these, not this one because I put a chip in it, I can get a whole bunch of these that are exactly the same. These two. So this is what it looks like actually when it's not sanded at all. So you can see some tool marks in. This one I think I used like up to 320 or something. It's got a box in it.
If we get a sanding gauge.
No, I just have to take a little more time. So
Yeah.
So if I can have to question about that CNC here. My prejudice against it is all the ones you see in the woodworking shops. Seem to me the people making time.
yeah, so
And
yeah, keep going. I know where you're headed.
there's, do they have anything that are useful for other sorts of things?
Well, so I made this for a guy in Halifax. Well, we can't go back on screen. Door. Like it's a door. Guy wanted this for his home theater in Halifax. And I guess you could say, yeah, this is a song. But it's not a song, right? Now, I had to make this in two pieces. You'll actually see a seam across the center there. But I can show you other things that are not signs. So this was all done on a CNC. Not sure why it's such a horrible color there. This, everything you see in this picture was done in the CNC. Yeah, so, well, this thing was CNC. Well, yeah, so the knights, but this is the beauty of CNC, right? It doesn't have to be round. So that was all cut in one pass. And when it's,
Well, yeah, so a rotary.
I have a rotary for this.
So it was a very fine point out there.
Yeah. So actually, I used a 16th ball nose on these, but I have a 32nd inch ball nose, which just means less sand. But like when you're carving the knife, it's mounted in the rotary, so it's a 4-axis CNC. And it's rotating, and as it's cutting, like say around his head, you see the head, the spin will go up and down as it's going around his nose and stuff. It's very cool. Where you can run into problems though is when you cut undercut. Like, because the CNC isn't smart enough to know that the thing is actually round, it just thinks it's a long flat round. So there's a few tricks you have to learn to do undercuts. Like if I wanted to cut a hole right through under his chin, I would have to resort to a trick. And the trick is you do it this way and get the kind of force where you can get to with the bit. And then you can say, turn it on its side at 90 degrees, do inside under his chin, rotate it 180 degrees, and do the other thing. So you can kind of think it. My point is, you never have to cover. So I did a lot of, when I was building this chest, this was the first chest that I did. And when I was getting ready to build it, I did a lot of research on, because a lot of these are made in India. Because they have an apple supply of boxwood and everything. And they said they will make, it takes as long to make the knights of a chest set as it does to make all the rest of the pieces. Because that's the only one they can't put on a lathe. So that one is hand carved. They'll carve it on the lathe to get it as round as they can, and then it's all hand carved. I don't use hand carving. So, like I've heard people say this before, right? That, oh, CNC is just good for signs, or a laser is not really a woodworking tool. Right? And I had a bit of a cerebral discussion with somebody who said, well, laser is not a wood shop tool. Like, is it why? Well, because it's technology. And I said, do you use a handsaw? Oh, wait, that's technology too. Do you use a table saw? It's like, where the real value is in a workshop is not in the tool, it's the guy running the tool, right? Who's the quote unquote artist. And as we said at lunchtime, I'm not an artist, I'm an engineer. So I look at everything like a math problem. But there are people who are art people, and they would look at it really good. So anyway, so everything there, including all the inlay, all that stuff is done with CNC. Yeah. The cool thing was, even on the bishop where you have a little cut through the top, I did that with the CNC. It wasn't like I took it off after. And the rooks, that's actually a 2-turn job, because you do the round and then you turn it on its end and do the top.
You do the letters, you the letter first and make the letter.
No. So I made the whole length. Now it got a whole lot easier just recently. I use software called Vector Decarb, which is kind of the big one that everybody uses. And when I did these ones, it was a lot harder to do. And now they have an inlay tool path, and it'll cut both sides of the thing. Like when you say I want to make letters, and I'm using this tool bit, you'll make a whole string, and it will say, I'll make the other half for you too. So it got way easier. Anyway, that was just an exercise. My stepson, his fiance plays chess, so this was for Christmas present this year. But that's the kind of stuff you can do with the.
We mentioned earlier, Peter, once you've done all the programming, the big one, you can then
Yes. So the pond, right, is a good example. We're making 16 in the whole thing. So what I did was, and this is why CAD is so much better, right? I drew basically, like if you look at the pond from the side, I drew a line that was this profile along one side, and then it said, rotate it around here, and it was this. Now go put it on the CNC. Add gate for 16 of them. And you could do, I did them one at a time, but you'll see people who put 3 or 4 of them on at the same time, and then just cut the two. I'm not about the speed, so. The only manual operation I did was I drilled a hole in the wall with something not as heavy as those ones. Those are triple weighted. They're like that whole the chest, the set weighs about 3.5 kilograms.
Oh,
And
how
they're
big is that
range.
range? There is an individual size.
Yeah, so this set is designed for competition.
Yes.
So these are the regulated ponds. But those ponds weigh about 90 grams a piece. The king weighs, I don't know, 180, I think.
But I know the base of the chest man is supposed to be a certain first
This size.
size.
Those ones are bigger.
There's a certain ratio, like a 70% of the base has to be like the king is supposed to be about 70% of the dimension of the square.
Yeah.
Or there is a specific.
Yeah. As I was making these, Ted said to me, well, are they regulations? Like, regulations are round, they look like chess pieces. No. That's so I went off and started doing research, and it's like, holy crap. Yeah.
But then there's, I think, regulation colors too.
Yeah, well, officially, one set has to be whitish. Doesn't have to be white.
No,
And
but
the
I
other
mean,
set has to be darkish.
for the board itself, I think it was green and black or something.
As long as you can distinguish the squares easily.
Yeah.
They're not so picky about the colors,
Yeah.
but they are picky about the weights and the heights and the base dimensions. Like this chessboard is 2.5 inch squares. Regulation for competition of 2.25. So it's
Regulations for everything.
that's why I've got about 12 pawns and 4 knights needed for this set. No, that's too much work.
In other words, with the normal, the spot in the good store instead of CNC, we'll make more or less complicated.
Yeah. Well, you won't make those, but you will make, the other thing I was going to show you was, I'll find it here. Oh, incidentally, this was cut on a diode laser. That's about that big, a whole lot of pieces. But they're all snapped together, so when you put one of the ribs into a slot, it kind of goes click. So you don't really have to do them. I do those ones. So I made a thing for a guy. Well, this was all made on CNC. These are, if you're familiar with Dungeons and Dragons, these guys like these player boxes, so they can put their little character, 2 sets of dice, a pencil, and then they pull the pencil, put their iPad in. I have made tons of these things, but there is some signage, so you need to be tough. So what I was looking to show you, does anybody smoke cigars? No?
Not anymore.
We had an adventure cat line. We made a whole bunch of these, and it was more of a fun experiment. But sorry, I'm looking for something specific here. Oh, there's who I made the chess set for. The hairy dude is my wife's son. Lurking in behind is the wife, the mother-in-law.
Could be, it's like you.
Oh, here's something else you can do. This was a CO2 laser. And the cool thing here was it's two only lighted signs, so you get three colors. You get blue, red, and kind of purple color. And that thing is like, I don't know if you've seen these things, you get these little round pieces on Amazon for like $10 or $5 a piece. Those things are like, is it on? This thing you can see in sun. It's definitely bright. But what I was looking for, if I can find it. Oh, there we go. I did a job for a guy down in the US, and he wanted Buddha on rosewood for some reason. I don't have rosewood, it's can't get it. So I said, well, I'll make it out of walnut for you. And this was, I didn't really actually sand it a whole lot here, but this is like a 3D contoured sculpture on it here. So it started out as a fat piece of wood. We machined out 90% of it into sawdust and needed 90%. So yeah, you can do quite a lot with a CNC Harley Davidson sign. This was actually for Yogi's neighbor. Machined out and filled with resin. Yes. Anyway.
Well, you had no problem filling up an hour and a half, see?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, excellent.
So this one was, I did a video on this one too. This is another 3D. It's a start from a topographical map up and extract it, turn it into something that a CNC can do, and then I put some lettering in there just for fun. Oh, anyway. I normally would have them on my machine, but.
Well, Steve, thank you very much for doing all this for us. We really appreciate it, especially all the trouble you had to go through to bring your equipment in and that.
It's not that bad.
We'll open some eyes, maybe a couple of pocketbooks.
Yeah. Well, like I said, go check out my channel. I have a whole playlist full of just reviews. And if you're looking for something, it's probably there. If it's not there, ask, because I'll be suspicious. Because there are lots of them I won't review just because, like, companies will say, hey, we got this, you want to review it? And I'll say, do you really want me to review it? Like, I generally, for laser reviews, I don't generally take paid for the gig. This one I actually got paid. But that was only because I didn't say, no, I don't take payments. They just said, well, you review this for X number of dollars. Okay. As long as I can say what I want. Because as soon as you get paid, they want you to say good things, and there's bad things. I'm going to say it.
Yeah, well done, buddy.
Very good.